This is Andy Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by trainer Tony Sims over Zoom. Tony, it's good to see you. Happy New Year. Did you have a good one, a good festive period?
Yeah, it was quiet, thanks, Andy.
What did you get up to?
I went away actually for Christmas. I went to Spain for Christmas and spent Christmas with some friends.
You're not a fan of this traditional cold weather, Tone?
Not really, no. I'm a warm weathered man, mate. Not cold
Oh,
weather.
I'll recall a few conversations about your sunbathing in the past, Tony.
That's it. That's what I like. The sun. I love the sun.
Tony, obviously, before we come on to the gym itself, let's just start off with the back end of last year. We had a big card out in Riyadh. I was going to get your thoughts on that main event firstly, Alexander Usyk, Tyson Fury. What are your reflections on that fight?
I thought it was a great fight for the heavyweight title. I thought it was really, really, really interesting. Like you couldn't take your eyes off it for a second, that fight, and the rounds went really quick. It was so enticing, and it was so close. I actually thought it was a draw, and if anyone would have got it, I thought it would have been Tyson Fury. But look, I ain't a judge, so I was wrong. But I think there was a lot of mixed feelings who won that fight. A lot of people thought Usyk won it, and a lot of people thought Fury won it. So it could have gone every way, and you couldn't complain whatever way it went. But I thought it was a great fight to watch. Like that, two of the best heavyweights on the planet, and um, technically and mentally, it was a great fight to watch, especially for the purist. It was I really enjoyed watching it.
As you mentioned, you felt like a draw, in your opinion, maybe just edging Fury if somebody was to get it. On that note, why do you feel like it was that close, or if somebody was to get it, why do you feel like Tyson might have just done enough to have had his hand raised?
Well, I thought the first fight, I had Usyk winning the first fight, and obviously it was a big knockdown in that fight. And I just thought in the second fight that Fury fought a lot better than the first fight. And the first fight was close in itself. And a lot of people, some people had Fury winning the first fight, and I just thought the second fight, it was really, really close, the second fight. And I just thought I scored it a draw, and I thought, if anyone's going to nick this, it's going to be Fury. Obviously, he's a big favourite of everybody, and I just thought if anyone's going to nick this fight, it's going to be him. But listen, you can't complain. Usyk won the fight, and it was a great fight. As I say, it was a great fight to watch, and Usyk's a great, great fighter, as he's proved. And it was just an enjoyable fight to watch, and I know both of them got well paid for it, highly paid for that fight, obviously from Saudi, but it probably wouldn't never that fight would never have happened without the finance behind getting that fight on from the Saudis. So well done to Turkey to get that fight made, and it was a great fight to watch.
In terms of what's next for Fury, we've seen a lot of talk, a lot of rumblings that AJ fight is the one that all parties want to consider now. Do you feel like that's the one which makes the most sense for both men, Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, to take place next?
I think it's the only fight that they can both do really, because Usyk's beaten both twice, so it's pointless going back to that table. Um, Dubois knocked out Joshua pretty convincingly. And I don't feel as though, I feel as though that's the only fight that they can fight to entice the audience to tune into the fight. And listen, probably both of them probably seen their best days, but they're still great fighters, both of them. And it's probably a couple of years too late in the making, but still everybody would be tuning into that fight. And I certainly, for one, would look forward to seeing that fight. And I'm sure you're in the same boat as me, Andy, and everybody else in the country would want to see that fight. Two British heavyweights, massive names in the world of boxing to fight each other, especially if it's in London. And it should, it'll be a good fight to watch. And you can't really say who's going to win that fight either. So that's another fight that you couldn't really predict 100%.
Johnny, I'll just get you to quickly tilt your phone a little bit just before you go out. There we go. Um, yeah, just with the theme of that fight, and you said you can't really confidently predict who would come out on top. What do you think would be the key factors for both men to try and have their hand raised?
Well, they're both technically sound. They're both defensively good. I think Joshua is their more heavy-handed out of the two. He carries the more power. He's more athletic. Tyson's technically a bit better than Joshua. Defensively, he's a little bit better than Joshua as well. So it'll be a really good fight. I mean, you feel as if it went to points that Fury would win, but you feel if there's a knockout in that fight that Joshua will win. So I don't know. It's an hard one to predict. Down there, they're both opposite styles of each other, and it's a great fight. And as I say, it's the only fight really that both of them can go into now.
Speaking with Mark Tibbs recently, he suggested that for Fury, maybe his best route of success might be the later rounds, and for AJ to start fast and try and hurt or maybe take out Fury early on in the fight. Is that a pattern you could see unfolding if we were to see them square off?
Yeah, like I just said, you'd fancy Joshua for the knockout, and Fury on points. And that's how I would predict it. Either Joshua gets him out there within the first 6 rounds or Fury wins it on points. So, but listen, you never know, Andy. It could be the opposite way around, mate. Do you know what I mean? You never know, especially in heavyweight boxing. You never know what's going to happen. So it's one of them fights that'll be hard to predict who's going to win, and it'd be enticing to watch. A bit like the Fury Usyk fight, it'd be really, really interesting to watch.
Just with that card as well, I'm gonna get your thoughts on a couple of people. Firstly, Moses Itauma, for a former fighter of yours in Dempsey McKean, was a devastating victory. What do you make of Moses' performance then, and just kind of a talent he possesses?
Yeah, he's a phenomenal talent, and I've had a couple of fighters sparring him in the past, and he's still really young, and he's a phenomenal talent, and really, really nice guy as well. And I didn't think I thought that he would beat Dempsey. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't think it would be over that early. I thought Dempsey might take him a few rounds because Dempsey took a few big shots off of Ergovic and still, went into the 12th round. So I did think he'll take Moses a few rounds, but Moses lined it up really smart, jabbing to the body and then bringing the backhand over the top, and he lined him up for that, and he caught him flush as well, and it was a great shot, and it was a really good win.
I also want to get your thoughts on Ishmael Davis, not to be against Bohachuk on the night, but his last two fights stepped in at short notice, and he's getting some great opportunities, even though he hasn't had his hand raised. He's spent rounds with Conor in the gym. How talented of a fighter is Ishmael, and where would you like to see his career go from now?
He's a very talented fighter, and I thought he was. I know he got put down in the second round, but I actually thought um, the last couple of rounds leading up to his retirement, um, I thought he was actually doing okay. And I had George Liddard and Conor Benn both spar Bercherick last year in Los Angeles at Manny Robles' gym, and he's a really tough fighter, but he's very basic. And I actually thought that when Ishmael was boxing him at range, behind the jab, I thought he was boxing well, but I don't know why he retired in the corner. Maybe he wasn't in taking it at that late notice. He might not have been in the 12 round shape that he should have been in. But as you say, he took 2 fights at like a week's notice, and put decent performances in on that short notice. And he's definitely put himself out there and hopefully earned himself a few quid as well. And that's why all professional boxers do this sport, is to earn money at the end of the day. And obviously he's got kids and a family to keep. So hopefully he's done well out of them 2 fights.
Just with some fights on the horizon, I'm interested to get your thoughts on as well, Tony. Obviously, you got the Daniel Dubois and Joseph Parker fight on Feb 22nd. How do you see that one playing out?
Really good fight, Andy. That one, really good. I I was in the corner with Joshua when he fought Parker, and that was the first time I really see him in action. And he's a really good fighter, and he's improved since them days as well. He's got really quick hands for an heavyweight. He's got good boxing brain on him, and he fought Joshua at the time when Joshua was really like on fire, and he took him the distance, and he actually had a hard fight with him. And I really rate Joseph Parker, the same as I really rate Dubois. He's proved that the loss that he had against Joe Joyce, where everyone doubted him, he doubted whether he had enough courage in the ring. He come back from that, got beat by Usyk, and really no one believed that he could go to the top. But the performance against Ergovic was unbelievable performance, because he was getting big bombs landing on him early doors, and he come back, weathered the storm, and got Ergovic out there. And then the performance against Joshua was just phenomenal. I don't think many people see that coming, especially the dominating fashion that he won in, and how many times he had him on the floor. So that's a great fight, great heavyweight fight, and another fight that I would be looking, as a fan, would be looking forward to watching that fight take place. And I don't know, that one's hard to predict, really. It really is. Either man could win that fight. They're both technically quite smart. They can both punch a bit. They both got fast hands. Both got good footwork for heavyweights as well. So I don't know. That's a 50-50 one, Andy, that one.
Tony, at the beginning of February over in America, we see David Benavidez and David Morrell fight. Two men have been touted to fight each other for a while. They were both seen as future kings of the 168 division, but now up at 175. Do you have an opinion on that one?
That's a brilliant fight. That I know. Obviously, when I had John Ryder fighting in the super weight division, we John nearly fought Morrell for the WBA the WBA regular title. We nearly took that fight, but there just wasn't enough money in it. And I think Morrell was something like 6-0 at the time, or 7-0. He hadn't had a lot of fights. No one really knew him, but the word coming out from the gyms in America at that time is that he was a special fighter, and obviously wanted John to get paid good money for that fight. But anyway, it never took place. Obviously, Benavidez, um, there was talks of John fighting Benavidez one time as well. So I've seen both, plenty of them. I've kind of studied them in case the fights would happen. And that's a good fight, really good fight, and a 50-50 fight. I fancy Benavidez could beat Morrell on points. That I fancy he just might beat him on points, but it's another good fight. And I was reading about it the other day, the write-ups on it, and there's a lot of bad blood between them two coming into that fight. And it's a great fight to look forward to. And we're kind of being spoilt at the moment with these fights, because in the past we wanted to see all the big fights get made, but there was never enough money on the table to make these fights. And obviously Turkey and Saudi coming in to make the big fights. There's other big fights being made across the other side of the world where they ain't involved with the Saudis, and that's one of them. And we'll be looking forward to watching that fight.
Tony, obviously away from all those other fights, just get your thoughts on a couple of other things. Obviously, Conor Benn, since we last spoke, he's now had his ban lifted by the NADP. So, what's the latest with Conor?
The latest is there's still negotiations going on with the Eubank fight. Obviously, the Barrios fight's on the table as well, so he's in a good position. He can either fight for the WBC title, which if you'd have said that a year ago, it wouldn't have been possible. And obviously, the Eubank fight's a big money fight, so we're just gonna wait and see, and hopefully know within the next couple of weeks which direction he's going to go in. But at the moment, he's sitting in a pretty good position now.
I've seen Conor over social media suggest that the WBC is his primary target. Now, do you feel like that's the case, or do you feel like the Eubank fight still trumps all?
Well, it's an hard one, really, Andy, because obviously Conor wants to emulate his dad of becoming the WBC champion, and that's always been a dream of his. And now he can challenge for it. Obviously, Sissoko's the number one challenger, but he's injured at the moment. So Connor's in at number two. So he's obviously available, to challenge for that title. And it's something that he really, really wants. On the other hand, the Eubank fight can set him up for life with the amount of money that could be on the table. So it's an hard one, really, because at the end of the day, like I was saying earlier, professional boxers do this for money. This is their job, and if if you've got a job, you want to earn the most money you can at that job. And obviously, as a sportsman, especially a boxer, their job's a small window in year wise, and they want to earn as much money as they can in them small amount of years. And if the Eubank fight materialises, then so be it. But if it don't, then the WBC fight's there for him. So, as I said, he's in a great position at the minute, and we'll just see within the next couple of weeks what materialises. But he'll definitely be fighting either the end of March or April anyway. So in one of them fights. So we'll just wait and see what one it is.
Tony, I'm sure you've seen Junior's comments that he won't be entertaining a 50-50 talk of a split for this fight. Do you feel like that's going to be a sticking point? Do you feel like if terms can't be agreed around a 50-50 type deal, it just won't happen?
Um, I think that's what's going on at the minute, Andy. Obviously, Matchroom are dealing with it, so I believe that's the case at the moment. Both fighters want 50-50 deal, so um, hopefully he can hopefully one of these fights will get over the line within the next week or two, and then once he's got a date, and then we'll know the date and we'll know who he's fighting. So whatever direction he goes in, it will be a great benefit for Conor Benn. So we'll just wait and see anyway.
How would you say the Barrios talks have progressed?
Barrios, from what I've heard, wants to fight, so he wants to do the fight. It's obviously a good money fight for him to do against Conor Benn. So obviously Conor's a big name, and I think he's just kind of waiting there to see what we're going to do next. So as I say, we should know within the next week or two what's going to happen, Andy.
Barrios' last performance on the Jake Paul Mike Tyson card didn't pull up any trees, left a few question marks around how much longer he's got at 147, or if maybe he just didn't make the weight right, amongst other things. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, like you say, it was a subpar performance, and he looked good early doors. He put the opponent down, and he looked good early doors. But he kind of got tagged himself later on in the fight, and he didn't look great in that fight. I actually know I know Barrios personally. When I had a few years ago, when I had Ricky Burns fight Omar Figueroa out in Texas, um, Barrios was only about 18 or 19 at the time. He'd done quite a lot of rounds with Ricky. We was in the gym in San Antonio, and he come over and done quite a few rounds with Ricky, and he was only young then. So I know that he's like a true Mexican fighter, and he's game. And even then, as a teenager, he was giving Ricky good rounds. So I know him quite well.
Um, Obviously, with Barrios being based out in the States, there's a chance that fight could happen out there. We mentioned Junior earlier on. We know that could happen as a part of the Riyadh season show, maybe out in Saudi. So on the theme of kind of Conor and his license, do you think he'll look to renew one with a British Boxing Board now, or do you think he's going to go down a different route?
I don't know that really, Andy. I've just left that with him and his lawyers, really. I don't really know what he's doing there. As you say, the Barrios fight could land anywhere, really. I would hope it would land in London, to be truthful with you. But yeah, I don't really know that answer to that one.
What you reckon? Don't know if Eddie said to you, you're gonna have a week away in Florida again, you'd say no? Some warm weather?
Maybe I'd rather it be in London, to be honest. I think Conor would be, yeah, obviously you always want to be at home, especially on the world title fights. But wherever I'm hoping it would be in London.
And obviously, just generally speaking, with the rest of the gym, Tony, as we know, quite a young stable you boast now. So, what's the hopes for everybody for the coming year?
Yeah, Jimmy Sains is on January the 31st on the New Gen show. He's fighting an 8 rounder on there. As you know, he's had 8 fights and 8 knockouts. So he's um he's a really good young talent coming through. And George Liddard's looking like topping the bill on that card. Um, he's like 10-0 at the minute, and just he just boxed obviously in December on his first 10 rounder and won in the first round. So he's another really good talent. They're both really good talents, and they're both really young. George is only 22, and they're both really good talents at the moment coming through. Both heavy-handed, very smart in the ring, and obviously they're only on kind of British level at the minute. But I expect both of them to go for British titles by the end of this year.
Well, Tony, listen, I appreciate your time today. I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for speaking to me, and thanks for speaking to Boxing News.
Cheers, Andy. Thank you, mate.